Hey, everyone. Okay, you guys, I've already done quite a few trainings speaking to a lower drive partner. I've talked about the different ways that we victimize ourselves, the ways that we feel like we're broken, the ways that we feel like maybe, maybe we could just do without sex ever. We've let go. I think we've kind of been through all that stuff. If you're listening for the first time and you're like, wait a minute, whoa, she's like coming out the door with all this intense stuff, but you really want to know more, shoot me a private message and I'll make sure you get a hold of one of those trainings. Because today I want to speak to this in a little bit of a different way than I have before, and it's so important. I want to speak to the women who have actually let go of calling themselves broken for their low sex drive. I want to speak to the women who have let go of feeling the pressure or like your body is only meant for sex for him. I want to speak to the women who have let go of saying, this causes me so much discomfort, I would be fine to never have sex again. Those are kind of like, where we start out at this lower level of initially addressing our sensuality, our sexuality, and our low sex drive. Totally normal. All those phases we kind of have to go through. Again, if you want to hear about those things and hear in more depth about those things, private message me, say, I want to hear about, sensuality from previous trainings. Just let me know and I'll make sure you get those. Today, I want to speak to women who have kind of evolved through this, and yet you still find yourself as a low drive partner. And I want to speak to this because I see it over and over again. And also, it's me. This is me. I'm describing myself. I don't do any of this victim-y crap anymore when it comes to my sex drive. And yet, there's still some discomfort for me around my sex drive. So the women that I'm speaking to, that the highest expression of your sensuality and pleasure and erotic energy is expressed with your partner. You know that, and you love that, and you don't do it often enough. And it kind of ends up falling on a to-do list, like a checklist, and it's somewhere at the bottom. Why does this happen? Why do we allow this to happen to ourselves, you guys? It really is a much deeper issue about us showing up in our truth or not showing up in our truth. If anybody resonate with me here, we're going hot and heavy today. But this is actually not about your sex drive. This is more about you showing up in your life, in your truth, or not. Why do we do this? We allow things like, there's not enough time. I'm too overwhelmed. I have too many tasks to do. I have a big deadline at work that I have to make sure I get to. I don't have time for sex. I don't have time for intimacy. It's just not high on my priority list. We say these things, but here's the big key I want you to walk away from with this. When you are feeling free and connected to your own sensuality, you are also in your truth. And you can utilize this thing as a gauge for how often you're living in your divinity, in your real fullness, in your truth. You can use your sex drive as a gauge. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier this week. I did a video kind of outlining, we're talking this week about immersing ourselves in sensuality. This is not about shaming. This is not about making you feel bad about whatever. I'm speaking to women who do not want to continue to live small, right? We live small in all these ways. So you're the kind of person who's not doing that anymore. You don't want to live small as a really huge commitment in your life. It feels like death when you live small. So you don't do that. You want to live in your truth. You know you were made for greatness. You know you have a great purpose on this earth. You know what it feels like when you're really alive in that, when you're being the vessel and you're like contributing to the creation of like a new earth, right? And you know what it feels like when you're not. And I'm here to tell you that your low sex drive can be that gauge for you. And how? How is that? Let's break that down a little bit. How can it possibly be? It's because sometimes our low sex drive shows up to invite us, one, to deeper healing. Okay, again, I would love to hear in the comments, has anyone experienced this? When you actually take some time to go into those depths, to go into intimacy with yourself, you find like, oh, wow, this is showing up for me because when I was 12, someone said this about my body and I've shut it down. Or because when on TV, when I was a kid, this. And so I shut this part down, right? It's like inviting you into this deeper layer of healing. Healing that is necessary, not just for your husband to get like sex. No, that's not what this is about. Deeper healing for you to be in your fullness, to be a deeper impact in the world. That's what this is showing up for. Did you know that? How many of you have taken some time to go, okay, I'm experiencing all these walls around sex right now. I don't even really understand. It's not like my husband did anything different today. Like he just did whatever. He just touched my arm in a certain way. And all of a sudden I have all these walls up. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to slow down for a minute and see what the medicine is in this for me. And then we find medicine. Anybody have that experience? And certainly feel free to respond to these questions if you're watching in replay. One of those deeper healing pieces is stepping away from stereotypes, stepping away from the mainstream narrative of sensuality and intimacy that just don't serve you anymore. So no matter how evolved you are, no matter how much work you've done on this, I think there's always layers we can do to this. You know, for instance, just I want to say it was last week, my husband's been talking about this whole concept of how men have this inner war about either being a nice guy or being a dick. That's the phrase he uses, is being a dick. And he's always talking about this. And really, I think this like kind of little like contemplation and inner war even for him has gone on for many years. And he's really bringing it out to the forefront and helping other men address that. And he's been saying this phrase over and over, being a dick. Well, guess what just occurred to me last week? Wait a minute, that's another one of those layers that I get to heal. Because my whole life I've heard this phrase, being a dick. What does it mean? It means you're aggressive, you're maybe violent, you don't respect boundaries, you are mean and maybe angry, or you're a jerk, right? We're referring to a male penis as all these things. Hello. Don't you think that our vaginas, like energetically, would be like, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with the dick, because this is what I've heard since I was a kid about what it means to be a dick. Is that an aha or what? So we have to do this work. Our bodies are wise. Maybe our low sex drive is showing up because we're rejecting the mainstream narrative. There's some piece in there that still is not true for us. And we haven't taken the time to break it down and identify what our truth is. Because I know that my husband's penis is not actually that definition of a dick. Like, it's not aggressive and violent and scary and mean, and I, have to be guarded around it. It's not any of those things. I had to redefine that for myself. That may sound, almost sort of like obvious or sort of strange, but we make these associations and then we shut things down. Okay. Maybe your low sex drive is there begging you to go deeper within yourself or deeper into your experience of life itself. So I often see, especially with women who have already worked through their trauma and, they've already gone through a lot of these layers, and yet they still find, I'm totally putting sex on the to-do list and it's at the bottom. Women in these situations often are in their masculine energy, or too busy, or crunched down by all the details of life. And we're running. we're like sprinting to the finish line, but the finish line keeps moving and we just keep sprinting. We just keep sprinting because we're so freaking good at it. We're good at producing, at progressing, at accomplishing stuff, at helping people, helping everybody but ourselves. And so maybe our low sex drive is showing up because it's actually begging you to slow down for a minute. Take some time to connect with yourself and go deeper into yourself. Because the truth is, true sensuality, true intimacy in their highest form take you to the depths and breadths of life. And it's everything. It's not just sex. It's not just the moment of orgasm. It's not even necessarily about that. That's just a part of it. And, you know, if you've followed me for a while, you've heard me say these things, but it's about just being alive in your senses right now. Taking a minute to feel what it feels like to take a deep breath. Taking a moment to go walk barefoot outside and just feel the earth beneath your feet. It's about pursuing the path of pleasure in every aspect of our lives. Yeah, orgasms, those are great. But like smelling flowers and tasting our food, feeling the air on our skin, feeling the snuggles as we sit on the couch with our families at night. I think we're missing out. We're missing out on the fullness of the experience of life that we can have. And it robs us of being in our power, really being the impactful vessels that we are. We're not living in our truth. So what if your sex drive was a gauge for you? What if you were so connected and present, slowing down often enough, checking in often enough, that you actually healed that? You healed your low sex drive to the point that it was like, actually, I'm open. I'd be open to sex right now, anytime. Because I'm so connected to myself. This is not about serving your husband. All that's beautiful. And yes, that is the fullness of the expression of physical intimacy, for sure. But this is about you being connected to your truth. And if this resonates with you and you know that it's time to stop playing small when it comes to your sensuality, then I'd love to get on the phone with you. If we haven't done a call together before, this invitation is for you. Just type me in the comments, or you can reach out to me personally because I know that this is a private issue. Certainly, you can private message me and say, hey, I want that call you mentioned. And we'll do that. We'll get you set up so that you know exactly what you need. What are those deeper healing pieces that you're being called to? What is it that's keeping you so uptight and stressed out and sprinting constantly? Let's break this down so that you can get back to your truth and be your fullest level of impact that you can have. Literally living in your purpose, living in your wholeness. Thanks, guys.